I'm playing poker in that photo. I don't know if it's obvious, but I didn't realize it at first. I don't do that all the time, just some of the time. Hi. Hello. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Rod, for putting this together and for that introduction. I'm actually going to do maybe 3 poems from Folk, my newest book. I'm going to do some new ones as well, sort of mix it up. This is the introductory poem to Folk. An introduction to the geographer's love song of his life. You and I were born on an impossible island. Local folklore purported that when seen by the gods, the island drew a perfect circle in the sea. Trained skeptics set out to disprove the superstition. First they counted paces and somebody invented a device that could properly validate their findings. Someone elsewhere was launched into space. Evidence came down from international committees suggesting that the island was not quite a circle. There were irregular masses stretching out into the ocean. This river sabotaged a national psychology. Revisions were brokered for the national flag. Parliament discussed renaming the island from Reglatug, which in our language meant circle, to Reaticus, which in our language meant here. A revolution spread westward and defeated these ideas. Men were killed for using the new name in a song. The PhDs who preceded me were made to use protractors, watched over by a soldier who covered his face. But you and I were born in the decades of forgetting. The priestess told us at our wedding that our grandfathers were generals and had fought on opposite sides of the war. After their campaigns, order was restored to our capital city. We took our firstborn daughter there so she could see the graveyards. We buried our heads in the sand. The summer I found work at the National Academy. They uncovered latent metals in the silt of our lake beds. All this improper planning brought the island new prosperity. Refugees from other islands aimed their boats at our beaches while we took that little house on the shoreline I had promised. You saw it in the background of a bicycle commercial. We made love for the first time in 16 years while outside. The sounds we made in coupling were lost inside the waves. We both voted for the man who promised us modernity, attended speeches that were heard on every island in the chain. The year I got ill at the family reunion, he set about the task of rendering the circle. Phil from poor islands was lifted in by planes. Crowds gathered at the pier to watch the workmen smooth the edges, brought roses for their wives and fresh breakfast every shift. Our largest corporations paid the ancillary costs. Old colleagues from my college days engineered the dig. The young man we voted for was voted in again. In the last year of the digging, I lost my sense of sight. I sat in my deck chair and listened to the workers. Our cities were congested by counter-demonstrations. Certain elements complained that the work was too expensive, that some of our bird life would be lost to the project. The year we brought the walker, they finished the circle, shot a man into space to bring back photographic proof. The book of his life story has been adapted into film. You keep it in the living room and you read to me at bedtime. The shoreline has since been moved far away, but in the lonely afternoons I still sing towards the waves. Oh, my voice, my people voice, come find me. So I'm going to do 2 poems from the first sort of half-book section. Based around the crash of Swisser Flight 111 in September of 1998, about a half mile from where I grew up and was living at the time. Original draft of the book didn't have this sort of first poem that sort of lets you know where things start, and so it was something that my editor really worked for, and sort of made me sort of figure out. And put in here. So it's the first poem in the main section of the book, but it was the last one written. The ocean sings of incendiary things. To begin with, it was beautiful. A solar flare, a break in the beacon speak of light, saw seabirds and sailors blinked in perfect unison, from chutzpah into flail, from hum into sizzle crash. The come apart was counterpunch, the wheeze of pressurized air was heraldry, a droop in the fuselage that focuses the heart. Now come marauder, come meal, be erected in their honor, come reducer, sob machine, emperor of sulk and sunlit private moments, reckoner, decision, come sprinkle your storyboards across their country notions, the friendliness exhibit zeroes in. They'll see parts of you in beaver dams, pocket lint, school lunches, come berate their histrionics, but before that, come be heard, be soluble, smothered, pulled apart and pummeled clean, come retrieve your beauty. I believe in beauty, in the wish-thin packaging and pander of the word. And I'll do one more and then I'll do some new ones. 2 theories of the impact. 1, that the problem first burrowed in unbroken underwater, minus the wings and other peripherals unsuited to the shift in local gravity. The pressure differential drew a plan for its attack, then kicked out the window, stippled down the vessel's length along its open pores. Thereafter, certain objects could see where they stood, and the sudden cartoon logic forced the interloper open at its seams, then at its seams. Down this insurrection, the breaking gained momentum and surprised the unbreakable. A bolt, its head shorn free from the shaft, a crumpled metal found inside a crevice carved from bone, an air bubble burking at the surface, an oil slick, and 6 or 7 seagulls squawking through the din. 2, that at a certain speed, the salt in ocean water coalesces into concrete. At a certain speed, spun momentum can churn objects into dust, dust that embraces itself as it death rolls down the sky. This is why they never found a piece of the wreckage too heavy to be hauled from the water by hand. Most of it escaped microscopic, lifted on the wind and carried a cloud blind towards the shore. We call this theory immediate translation. And it predicts that the first island in will get infamous. So no Mounties, but still, one morning that winter, a man we all knew woke up, shot his 2 young sons in their sleep, shuffled back to tell the wife the shotgun's languid afterburst, folding smoke into the carpet. The wife has moved to the mainland, and she hangs out with the hairdressers making conversation. She'll catch the young sailors as they try to slink away, hold their scared new heads in her hands, say, "You look good, kid, handsome, everybody's at their best today." That's from this book called Folk. Copies available for trade or purchase, or if you want to do a dance, whatever. I don't know what the currency is here. I don't know. I was traveling all last autumn, and I found myself in Thessaloniki, Greece, in December, right at the sort of the apex, which maybe we haven't found the apex yet, but the up till present time apex of that trouble there. And we somewhat accidentally wandered, my sister and I, into a run on a bank and a riot. And we experienced this forbidden, and we had to run back to the campus of Aristotle University, where I wrote what started as a love letter home to my fiance, and became a love poem home to my fiance. And it's called "I Will Find You in the Bank Run." Coax a celebration, and I'll bindle back the ties that bind us. Be carnivorous again, my hunter wife. Be quarantine. We'll umbrella up against the men burning rain machines on rooftops. We will talk about the piracy. Our homing house of pelicans will make the best of the bread line snaked between the royal we and us. I want the most of selfishness. I want post-industrial sad lands that know your call like I do. So put on my Red Star Belgrade hat. Yeah, you look so good and apolitical in that. Give it up, sell the bedspread, come break me into colonies and share me in the street. Our only wealthy neighbor bought his gold and lived in libraries. I understand that he'll be king. So do what he demands you do. Mourn everything, trust no one, and love me. These are all new poems. They're on loose pieces of paper. The New Republic. I am sharing the bathtub with my twin brother when news of the New Republic comes parading down the stairs. The shadows of 6 trumpets make their puppets on our walls, and the vanity gives way and it falls into our sink. My twin brother stands to power on the radio. The New Republic's name is not pronounceable to us, the stalwart young soprano at the microphone explains. The emperor is asking to be left his wingback chairs. His 11 wives will carry shopping bags and vanish down the naming conventions of American charity. My twin brother stalks the birth years of republics. He once loved a woman who taught the social sciences. The urge to buy shares in certain firms inspires him, so he covers his nakedness and he jumps a downtown bus. I can sense my extremities conspiring to prune. I call and quit my job. I splash the bath mat. I tune in. The dripping of our faucet keeps time with the crowds, chanting in a country that is dreaming of me. I know another nation where they vote with their hands. The least concerned of the nation amble in after work with thimbles full of clippings spread against tape. More committed citizens will pull the skin back, find the thin red threads holed up behind old cuticles. They bring pouches, the same size and shape as tea bags, wince as they place their bandaged palms on stained texts. I know an old farmer who scorched his thumbs, picked free the puckered flesh and gave it to the leftists. The priests in poorer countries are said to saw off whole hands and push them through the box's antiseptic rubber mouth. And on fundamental matters, the young will give themselves completely. The student ghetto knows a girl who widened the jaws, shoved both arms through to slip herself inside. Curled up in excess flesh, it is said that she survived for 17 years. I don't know if this is true, or if true, how she was counted. In 1965, recently renamed Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali fought Sonny Liston for the world heavyweight title. Supposed to be in Boston, and they lost sort of their license at the last minute, and they had to move it to Lewiston, Maine. This is a small town. And the fight's famous for 2 reasons. One is that famous photograph where Ali's sort of looming over Liston while he's on the ground and the referee is holding him back. And secondly, because the punch that Ali threw to knock him out may or may not have actually made contact with any part of Liston's body. So there's all that controversy there. In this poem, the fight is controversial for another reason. Ali kills Liston, Lewiston, Maine, 1965. You no longer belong to Louisville or Lewis, you are Lewiston's. By this well-spoken phantom hand, your name has been commanded out of Kinshasa. Your chains of feather boas handled into sugar cane to be sold at border outlets to impatient local kids. It gets worse than this in shanty towns. In untested rural Georgia, a farmer fires off his rifle, his radio rope-a-dopes a moment, then explodes. 3,000 witnesses walk the chalk perimeter, make untelevised appeals to the harvest gods of Maine. Nothing becomes of Nathan Hare. Nixon's list drains of enemies. Humphrey beats Nixon. Carl kills Allison. Mondale kills the rapist. It surprises us with snow for all of '88. Harding kills Kerrigan. McSorley kills Brashear. The cell they move you to is flooded, so you hang from their ceiling. Tyson kills Holyfield. You are approached by no biographers. America goes metric. Orderlies arrive to find you burning fight cards. Oh boy, this one. This is very new. Things that you might be interested in knowing in advance. Mark Fidrick, the bird, the pitcher from the 70s, and Bea Arthur from Maude and the Golden Girls died about half an hour apart. Not together, but in separate places. Maybe together, I don't know. And Don DeLillo's giant novel Underworld starts with sort of the taken as the beginning of the Cold War, the baseball game that spawned the shot heard around the world between Dodgers and the Giants. Background information may come together in some way in the poem, we'll find out. Beyond that, it's self-explanatory. I curate a museum through the Book of Revelations. The thing is, as an eager teenager, I climbed the riot on Rue Levesque to carve free a token ounce of defate fencing, which sat out 11 years of sensualist drift in shared apartments, only to slip inside a dress shoe readied for a meeting in BC. I explained this to a buyer on the steps of my museum. Fresh Rockport's buff conman black and left extinguished in my gym bag. Grown-ass objects know their way around an anecdote, can figure out the figure and ground of a crowd scene, so come in. Sirens call the dead. The designer's grown amused among the effigies. Continental thought collapses at her eardrums. It doesn't want to wait to have its hubris oofed away. Spend an hour in my lobby. This concept clock was fashioned from TTC transfer passes, one for every minute, mounted on an LED that backlights them individually, 12 even rows of 60, her first success. The designer sends me blueprints. I blow them up and have them mounted. A wall in Brussels fell today, one in Turkey. The chair of UBS has hung himself in drag. A rhythmic tick of seabirds smack against our asphalt. I read Delillo's Underworld as an e-book all volcano week, hoped he'd end it back at baseball, closed his Cold War glossing late on San Andreas, San Francisco, 1989. Millionaires gone six staging into grandstands, swaying with their kin. The symmetry brokers conspire me to nubs. Notation for a quarter cup of warm blue liquid says, elixir from the hemisphere of sense. This is my most utilitarian exhibit. If you touch my art, you buy it. Designer speaks of superhuman juntas, fluoride water, Twitter, that can collapse in one direction. Look to the northwest corner of Japan. Look at heart disease, at the bird in McArthur. Tune your varied sobbings to the key of one event. We are waiting out the rapture of the designer's retrospective. There are 7 of us here, a dance among the early works. Quote, an atomically exact cast of Disney's brain being birthed by a perfect plastic model of Chasey Lane's cervix, or her allegorical bone-carved cabinet for DeMarco's. Her slurred words in the ash cloud, our last epic morning, says, now staple your names and your ages to your chests, and go be sad in public spaces. Go be the royal sad. And Lord Baden-Powell is the originator of the Boy Scout movement. Before World War I, the visual ethic, we'll call it, of the Boy Scouts was a much more staunchly militaristic than it is now. Immediately after World War I, Powell was stricken by a fever, and he started to hallucinate, and he had these waking nightmares of armies of dead young men torturing him and attacking him and berating him, and he almost sort of totally lost it. He sort of got it together after 3 or 4 months of this regular activity, and put himself together and sort of changed how the scouting movement deals with uniformity, though not completely, as recent headlines attest. Anyway, this will be my last poem. Thanks for having me. This is from the new version of ARC magazine. The Fever Dreamer, in the voice of Baden-Powell, 1918. I have made the boys, Baden boys, Britannia boys. I have made them cruel and handsome, made them march in single file, back straight, sleeping on their haunches like new carnivores. I have taught the boys to take the waste from their lives, to cure their spit-clean trousers of mange and leg and mittens. I've had my boys go post-European and sew their pockets shut. I have beaten boys. I have whipped their face with eyebrows. I have singed their shirts with steam and broken out the laxatives. I have proctored international, made and been remade by boy. I have told the boys I want them. I want them for King and Kaiser, want them Lusitania and Sinosaurus tensions, want them cradle of statecraft and Metternichs and mobs. Want armament contracts for agreed upon fathers, mothers who would pack mule pamphlets into bedrooms, the boyish yes of Oxford Press printing in 3 weeks why we are at war. I have become the boys' sincerity. Their sweated out details I have boxed the boys, bent them at their waists and wound their backs for marching. If you scratch my surface, I will be their boys' defense. I'll settle their wounds with the good news of field dress. I will wear them hats. I will tie them heads to handkerchiefs. You'll taste how I have egged them on. How I fed the boys provisions. In those first provocations of Union Hall and Field, I've shown them the fruitful economy of hunters, bought them the blades for first shaves. With the saccharine blood of their comeuppance, I have calmed them. I've shown them to suckle on the nearest teat to tongue. I have left them to tend to these friendships in dark habitats. The boys, as boys, descend on repertoires of bravery. I know I bring it up again, but look at what they're wearing. Observe the benevolent cotton at their necklines, their badges and banners torqued into hieroglyph. Boy at swim, boy at camp, boy against the outline of the nation that protects him, boy using arrow, boys embraced around a flame. I apologize to Europe for the invention of the boy. I did not design them to be tyrants or marauders. I didn't dream them up to die. I demanded of boys that they drift in mythic packs, wicked on the scent of antagonist or sibling. I regret that climactic lifting of the fence, the appeal to factor in the fattened hearts of kings. I have brokered boys, bankrolled their littleness and lust. I've erected border towns both between and inside them, built hives in their minds free from history. Cornered in this keyhole nightmare in Brittany, I've engendered all the boys, as brood and as bereavement. Call me Piper, boogeyman, but it is true I have made the boys bewildering. Thank you.